What is consciousness? Consciousness is being self aware, and we all come from Source. And because we come from Source, the only way that Source can experience itself is through having these different reflections of itself. It is the same as it is for human beings. As human beings, when you become conscious, you become aware of self. And the only way to experience yourself is through different reflections that you get from people, places, and things. This is why you are able to be a villain in someone else's story and be a hero in another person's story. These are different reflections of parts of you that exist within you. And when you get these reflections back to yourself, you are able to see yourself in different forms. It is very difficult for you to experience yourself only from your own energy. When people experience you and you have interactions with other people, that's where the self-awareness comes from. You get to see how people experience you in different ways and different places. And it is important to also have discernment and be able to see when somebody is projecting their own insecurities and making it a reflection of you. And it is also important to learn from the reflections that you are getting from other people about yourself, because if you are all there is, then all of these things exist within you. And people have different experiences of yourself, and in those experiences there is a true you. And a lot of times how you react to interactions and projections of other people shows the level of consciousness that you are on. There are different levels of consciousness, and you can only perceive your own reality based on the level of consciousness that you are in. And because you might not be in somebody else's level of consciousness, that doesn't necessarily mean what they might be observing about how you are existing in this world doesn't exist. A lot of times, you might not agree with perceptions that people have of you, which might be true, because you might not be aware of perceptions that people have of you that might be true, and that is usually because you are not in the state or level of consciousness and awareness of self that the other person is seeing you at. And how you react to that reflection of self from somebody else or something else shows the state in which you are in. That doesn't always mean that everything that is being said about you, or everything that is being projected about you is always true. Sometimes it is projections that aren't true. However, there's also always lessons in each and every projection of self. There is always lessons that need to be learned. And until you understand a perception of self in that projection from somebody else, you will not be able to move on to another level of consciousness. You will not be able to move on to a different cycle, because when you are experiencing self, the information that you are getting comes back to you in order to elevate to a higher level of consciousness, in order for you to expand your own consciousness. And until you understand a certain type of consciousness, you cannot expand, which is why you end up recreating cycles or experiencing a loop that you are attracting the same type of behavior, or you are attracting the same types of people in your life, because you have not integrated and understood the reflection and perception and projections of self that comes from other people. So it's important to not always just look at projections as projections of somebody else's insecurities, that you must not always think that they are untrue. Sometimes there's a lesson for you to learn in order to expand self, in order to have a reflection of self, of a part of you that you have not shone light into at that specific time. And I think a lot of times we get stuck in a cycle because we are unable to understand the reflection that is being reflected back to us. We are here to understand self. We are here to experience self. And the more you understand self and the more you expand your own consciousness, Source is able to also expand its own consciousness, and it is able to then have different perceptions of self, because also the universe is trying to experience itself. It is actually experiencing itself through these different reflections of itself, and you are part of that reflection. I'm a part of that reflection. In order for self to understand and integrate self, it is important to learn from all these projections and to understand all these perceptions of yourself from different places, because this is one of the ways in which you can see your own reflection or experience yourself in other people's stories. And when you are able to experience yourself in other people's stories, you are able to then understand your own energy and understand which part of you still needs more light shining. And you are able to interact differently and react differently, because life doesn't have meaning. You give life meaning, and you give life meaning by reacting a certain way to things and experiences that are happening in your life. And when you work on those things, you are then able to have confidence within self, because you understand who and what you are. And the understanding also comes from interactions that you are having with other people, interactions you are having with spaces, how you give things meaning, how you experience what you are, because you cannot experience yourself only by just observe. Actually, that's how you experience yourself, observing how you react to the outside world, and then understanding belief systems about yourself that are making you react a certain way. And the moment you understand those things, you're able to expand your own consciousness. You're able to understand self. And there's different levels of consciousness. You become sensitive to certain things the moment you eliminate certain belief systems about yourself. And the only way to see those belief systems is to see and understand the projections that people have about you, and the expectations that people have about you, and the stories that people have about you and how they see you. When you understand those things, that's when you are able to understand self and expand your own consciousness and get to a different level of consciousness. And you become sensitive to information, because now you have an understanding of self, and it is integrating all these different reactions to the betterment of self and to the understanding of self. And also understanding that once you get into a different level of consciousness, that information is also taken back to the collective consciousness, where other people are also interested and want to also reach a certain level of understanding of self and what the world is around them, which I think is really fascinating. I'm really fascinated by how and what I am, by how I react to things and how I've always reacted to those things. And I find that I am constantly applying myself based on the perceptions and reactions of the world outside of me because of the beliefs that I have within me. And the only way to get into those belief systems, it needs to be projected outside of me. And then I can go within and understand why I'm reacting that way to that belief system. So, yes, I am shadow, and this is shadow work.